In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at the WinList N-Color compensation system. Let's start out by opening up some single color controls, which we will use to calibrate the compensation. So I've selected them here, and I'm going to use the Create Histograms dialog to add a set of plots quickly for us here. So I've got forward and side scatter, and then I'll add all of the fluorochromes. In this case, these are fluorescent proteins versus one another. So this first file that's opened is the CFP single color control file, and that's as good a place to start as any. We'll start out here by creating a contour region on the forward versus side scatter. This is computing a 90% probability of contour, which nicely encompasses the events of interest. And we'll just use this to quickly gate these other plots. I'm holding down the Shift key here until the end, and now I'm finished. I've applied my gate to each of these. So that's all well and good. Let's go ahead and see how we actually set the compensation up, and that's done with this compensation toolbox. So with this, we have a list box that shows the measurements that are going to be compensated. So let's start by turning on the measurements that we want to compensate. I'm just clicking one time on each of these. We see the word on appear, and they are then added to this list over here, the Show Plots For list. So our next step is to go ahead and display the compensation page. This is a page that's dedicated to compensation plots. We can easily apply a gate to the plots. We'll see one measurement, the selected Show Plots For measurement, on the x-axis, and each of the other compensation measurements on the y-axis. And then we see this line here in each of the plots. This is called a trace line in WinList. It has a handle on the low side that adjusts the intercept, and it has a handle on the right side that adjusts the slope. So you can see you can sort of position this to go through the data points, but we can have the program do that for us. So since this is the CFP control, we can say let's go ahead and look at the CFP plots. When we click that element in the list, WinList will ask us if we want to position the trace lines for that selected measurement. We'll say yes. And so it automatically now has found the best fit for a line going through those data points. And that looks pretty good. So we're actually done with the CFP control at this point. We can move on to the next one. I'm going to click Next on the Batch toolbar, and that will bring in our DS Red control. So we do the same thing. We're now going to say let's show the plots for DS Red, and the program not only switched to the DS Red on the x-axis, but it also positioned the trace lines automatically for us through the median of the data. They look pretty good. So once again, we'll move to the next file. This is our GFP single color control. So we'll choose GFP in this case. We can see our plots here. There's a fair amount of compensation to be done on this middle plot. And we've got one more to do. We move to our YFP single color control. Tell the program that that's what we're looking at. And here we are now with the trace lines positioned through that. So just to show you another aspect here, if I double click on this handle, I can see the slope of this is 0.73, which is equivalent to a 73% crossover in this case. That's a lot of crossover between the two elements. So we'll see how this pans out when we go ahead and activate things. So we've read in each of the single color controls. We've allowed the program to set these trace line positions. Now we're ready to go ahead and activate the compensation. And when we do that, what we're now looking for is how orthogonal these are to the axis. They look pretty good. So we can review our other single color controls by just backing up through them. Here's our GFP control. And again, looks pretty good. It's nice and orthogonal to the axis. We'll go back further here. This is the DS Red single color control. Looks good. Here's our CFP single color control. We'll select that. And that also looks good. Okay. So if the controls look good, we're now ready to go ahead and see whether a mix of all four colors looks good. So here's a file that has all four. And we'll read that in, and that looks pretty good. We can go back to our first page here and see the whole set of them. All of them are nicely orthogonal to the axis. These populations on the X and Y axis look great. And we can see how easy that was to set up. We were only looking at the set of plots that we needed for the single color control that was loaded at any one point in time. So that's how you use the N-Color compensation system in WinList to set up or to adjust compensation.